my radishes with my spinach. The radishes mature early, and after they are harvested, the spinach will fill in the gaps. I grow d'Avignon radishes. Their slender shape lets me grow more in less space, and they're just beautiful. I rinse my radishes outside on my rinsing table to get off all the dirt. Next, I remove all the tops from the radishes. They go into the compost pail to feed our pigs. This would also be a good time to remove the long, white, stringy root at the bottom of the radishes. You won't see me doing it here in this video because I forgot. That is a step that will need to be completed before you slice the radishes. Next, I add 2 tablespoons of unrefined sea salt to a large bowl. And then I add ice water and stir to combine. I give the radishes another quick rinse and get ready to slice. I use my mandolin slicer set on the thinnest setting. This is the best way to get consistent, uniform slices. You can slice the radishes longwise like this. Notice that I'm wearing a special cutting glove. It's designed for use with sharp blades or knives, and I do recommend it when using a mandolin slicer. Another option is to slice the radishes into rounds. I hold the radish from the top and slice until the blade gets too close for comfort. And then I put the little radish tops into the compost pail for the pigs. All the radish slices should be placed in the salted ice water to soak for at least 1 hour and maybe 2. Towards the end of the soaking time for the radishes, it's time to get our canning supplies ready. I like to use 4-ounce canning jars for this recipe to make sure that the entire jar of radishes gets eaten before it has time to spoil in the refrigerator. I need a lot of jars because I'm making a double recipe. First, I fill up 1 layer of jars on the bottom of the canning pot, and then I add a second layer of jars and fill those up, adding water to several inches above the tops of the jars. Place the filled canning pot on the burner, turn it on, and set the heat to high. Add the lid and bring the water to a boil. I also like to heat my lids and rings in a pot of water at a low simmer. Next, we prepare the pickling brine. For 2 pounds of radishes, we'll use 1½ cups water, 1¼ cups white vinegar, 1/4 cup red wine vinegar, and 3/4 cup honey. We'll bring this mixture to a boil, then cover, reduce the heat to low, and allow it to simmer for about 15 minutes. The canning pot is ready, so we will remove the lid, and then we will raise the rack so that the jars are sitting above the water. I also like to prepare a flat bottom tray lined with the dish towel. Now I'm ready to remove a few jars from the canning pot, first pouring out the water. Preparing the canning jars like this in your pot that you will use for the canning is a great way to sterilize them and get the jars hot both of which are necessary for successful canning. My radishes have been draining in a colander, and now it's time to move them over next to my canning jars so I can start filling the jars with sliced radishes. Next, I use a wide mouth funnel to fill each jar with sliced radishes. Then I take my bowl with 2 tablespoons of peppercorns and begin distributing the peppercorns among my jars of radishes. Now I ladle in the hot pickling brine, filling each jar up to 1/4 inch headspace. Now I'm ready for the next round of jar filling. After I've used up all my radishes, I distribute the rest of the peppercorns, trying to get approximately the same amount to each jar. I top off a little bit with my pickling brine and fill the remaining jars. It's important to wipe the rim of each jar with a clean, damp cloth. This will help the lids to seal properly. Next, I remove the lids and rings from the warm water onto a towel to catch the drips. One by one, I dry each lid and place it on a jar of radishes. Now I add a ring to each jar, turning until it is fingertip tight. Not too tight, but not too loose. There were a few extra jars in my canning pot, so I take those out. It's always better to have more than you need than to run out of hot jars in the middle of a canning recipe. With the jar rack still placed in the up position, I am loading the rack with my filled jars, and then I put them down into the water, put the lid on the pot, and set the timer for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, I remove the lid. I raise the rack, and I begin to remove the hot jars from the pot. Let's listen for the ping of a jar sealing. There it was. That's always a good sign. I transfer all the jars to my towel-lined tray. I gently transfer the entire tray of jars to an out-of-the-way spot where the jars can cool. After the jars have cooled for about 24 hours, I will test the seals, first poking the middle of the lid with my finger. The lids should not give. If they do, I remove those jars to store in the refrigerator for eating right away. Next, I unscrew the rings and I test the seals again by trying to pull off each one with my fingers. The final step is to label the jar lids and move the jars into storage.